Well folks, it's not looking very nice out there. It's about 1 degree out there at the moment, and I ain't going to work out there. Just coming into the log cabin. I've had the heater on for probably about 15-20 minutes. It was 1 degree or 2 degrees in here. It's up to about 11 now, so we'll just leave that on. So very, very cold folks. The diesel heater's a great help in here, and also we've got this little Zibro heater. Let's see what make it is, what model number. This is an R224TC Zibro heater. It is a paraffin heater, but I've been putting kerosene in it and it's been working fine. And it really does give out a good radiant heat on it as well. It's about 2.8 kilowatts. And yeah, that's what we had just as a little top up when we need a little bit of extra heating. Because as you probably know, we're not putting the heating on indoors. But I made the mistake. Let me show you what I've actually done. My diesel heater there, which is running at the moment, I've got this, let's turn this light on, hold on. I've got the tank now, and that's not red diesel in there. That is kerosene, but I've also got some automatic transmission fluid mixed up with it. And that's what I'm been running my diesel heater on there. And it sort of, it does it perfectly. It's no problem whatsoever. And it's a lot cheaper. I'll pick it up for about £1.15 a litre, and that's working fine. We was running this on paraffin. We was getting 4 litres in a white container, little white litre 4 litre container. That's gone up to £12. I can get the same amount of kerosene or house fuel for literally half the price of that. So that's what we've been running it on. But as I say, I made the mistake of putting that kerosene, which I've got mixed up with automatic transmission fluid. And the reason why I've put that in that is because the diesel pump on that diesel heater I've got over there, kerosene's got less lubricant or no lubricant in it, whereas paraffin has. So and diesel has as well. So you just put a little bit of extra oil in there. But I put that in here, and what happened was, it doesn't heat up fully now. The wick has now got impregnated. So you can take the wick out, possibly clean it, but I went out and bought a new one. So this is the wick here. The one for this model needs an RCA 200 wick. So let's just have a look at it. They come in sort of 2 halves. In other words, the top half of this is fiberglass, impregnated fiberglass there, and the bottom bit is the bit that soaks in the tray. So we've got to sort of get this out, strip this down, get this out, and get the old wick out, and then we'll put the new wick in, and hopefully we should restore it back to full burning capability. Right, let's get it apart. So the first thing I've got to do here is just lift out this and swing the door open there, and this is the inner chamber there. This is where the that glows up red, and that should fully glow red right to the top. As I say, it was only glowing red up to there sort of thing. So that's that out there. And if I bring you in closer, what you've got is the big knob here. I've lost a little push button there. It might have dropped inside. I'll have to have a look at that when we take the cover off. So we've got the knob which you turn up. Can you see the wick come up? Look. So the wick is now on fully, and then you press the igniter, which comes across. And can you see it glowing on that wick, and it sort of burns the wick and lights the wick like that. That's how you light it. So I'm going to turn it off just by pressing that button like that. So although it lights, the wick is impregnated. That top bit there, as I said to you, is the bit that burns, and that has been impregnated with that automatic transmission fluid. So got to strip this down, get the outer cover off, and take it apart. So that's the batteries there for the igniter circuit. Let's just prise them out. There should be a cover over there, but we've lost the cover, so I don't know where that's gone. So let's get them batteries out. And then you've got some Phillips screws around the bottom. There's one there. Just take that out. There's not too many screws apparently. Got a little screw tray there, look, little magnetic screw tray. So there's one there. Apparently there's one here as well. There we go. Spin it right around the other way. There's another one there. That's free. I think the knob's got to come off the front as well, folks. So I would imagine that just pulls off. There we go. That's a nice little slide out jobby. So that's off. You've got to take the fuel canister out first, folks. So that just lifts out. And that's the fuel there. It's got a little cap there which you turn upside down and fill it. And looking in there, there's another separate tank in there, folks. So that's the reservoir inside. So we should be able to literally just lift this cover off now, and it should come up. There we go. Here we go, yeah. So that's it. That's the outer cover off. Just having a look around it. I'm looking for that red button that was there. It just pushes that little wobble weight when you turn the unit on. So there's the inner fuel tank there. Some sort of vent on it there, is it? By the looks of it. Yeah, so there's a filter there as well. As you can see, we've been using kerosene in there, which is a bit dirty. But there's a bit of dirt in there. I'll have to clean that out as well. Okay, let's leave that there. So we've got this spark thing there with a little element there, which you probably can't see, which when it goes over to the wick, you press that in when you turn the knob up, which lifts the wick up, and then that pushes in, connects with a battery, and that sets fire to the actual wick. So what I need to do is to get that wick out. I think you've got 4 wing nuts here, one there, one there, one there and one there. I will try and undo them first, they shouldn't be that tight. I will have to give all this a clean out, I think, because it never really gets a chance to get cleaned out, does it? So let's undo these 4 wing nuts. I'm not sure whether I've got to disconnect this igniter circuit. Yeah, we'll have to play it by ear, folks. There's 2. There's the 3rd one. Like that. Spin it round. And there's the 4th one. I think there's a gasket under here as well, so I have to be aware of that. There we go. Right, now. Oh, that all comes off in one piece, I think. There we go. There we go. The cables are still connected there. I'm not too worried about that, so I'm just going to leave that over there. And just lean that down there for the moment. So that's the wick, folks. And as you can see, that sits in the fluid there. And all it does, when you turn that knob, it raises and lowers up. So, if I just lay that over there like that and put that knob back on, just temporarily, and then you'll see the wick come up. Look at that, look, on that mechanism, like that. So, I'm not sure whether that pulls out now. It's got a couple of pins on it. Oh, I see, you half turn it, and then that lifts straight out. Look at that, look, there we go. So let's get this out first, and then just dry this off, and then we'll get this changed over. Right, okay, so this is our original one. Then apparently these are, you can clean them, but you can probably see there's a bit worn away there. Look, that's where the igniter thing used to come across, so it's probably had its day, to be honest with you. So we need to take this out, and what I have done first of all is make sure that this is, these little pins here are in the same position as them pins, as you can see, which they are, because it's got to be the same height, otherwise it won't burn correctly. So I'm happy that them pins are in the same position, and all you literally do is just squeeze it in and just push it through. And it should be as simple as that. Look, there we go. Yeah, that's probably seen better days, isn't it? Look, and then you just push this one through and locate them pins in their little corresponding slots. There we go. Yeah, there's one there and there's one there. Look, there we go. Just drop them in. There we go. So that's got to be correct, because it's got to be at the right height now. So that's it, and that's an RCA 200, what I'm using here. I did get this on eBay, so let's put it back in. I've actually given everything a clean off. Let's lift that back off of there like that. So lift that arm back up there, and apparently this just goes over the top like that, slides down, and literally just slide into them lugs there. So that's it, now goes down, there we go, into the unit itself. So I've cleaned all that off, folks, so I'm just going to put that over the top, carefully put that back down. I haven't removed that gasket, so I'm just going to put them 4 bolts back in there, them wing nuts. There we go, there's one there. Get them all on first. There we go, there's 2. So it's actually not too much of a faff, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be a right pain of a job, this, but it looks to be okay. Pretty simple. And the fourth one, just in there like that. So I'm just going to nip them down. Don't want to over tighten them. There we go. Right, that's that. Just give that a final wipe around there. A little bit along that edge there. Oh, hello. Yeah. I don't know where that little red button went, folks. It was on the inside. We lost that a long time ago. It's obviously dropped out the bottom because there's no frame on the bottom, I don't think. So it's probably slid out and been lost over the years. Right, okay, so that's that. So, knob comes off again. Right, okay, that's that. That's working fine. So it comes up and the safety circuit pushes off. Right, that works. There we go. No perforations in that, that's okay. Drop the filter back in. Like that. Right, okay, so we can put the outer case back on now. Sit that over the top. That's it. Is that on? Right, that's on. So just put that knob back on now. Can only go on one way. Yeah, that's alright, that works. I'm going to put these 3 screws back in, folks. Alright, one. Spin it around the back. Number 2. And the final one. These things ain't cheap, you know. This thing, I can't remember what we picked it up for, but they're about 350 quid now. Not cheap at all. This is an older one now, but they still hold their price. Right, so that's that. Right, in with the batteries. Right, that's the batteries in. Spin that round. Right, there's not a lot of this is paraffin we got in here at the moment, folks, so we just put that back in there. Shut the lid down. Open the door up. What I can do is turn the knob on like that. Press the spark button, see if it lights the wick. It might not be damp enough yet, the wick, but we'll try anyway. There we go. Yep, so that lights up now, so I can put that back on there. Like that. There we go. So now, I'll leave that on for the moment. Stick that back in there like that. It goes in there, sits like that. Right, okay. So if I turn the light out, hopefully, within a certain period of time, we should see that whole element light up. Ah, that's better. There you go, folks. The element, or the heating element, is fully glowing now. So, and the heat coming off of that is fantastic. Lovely. So, I've got these temperature probes here, folks. This is a laser thermometer. This one I've had for absolutely years and years. And I'm not even sure if it's correct anymore, but we'll have a look in a minute. But I've just got this one. Well, in actual fact, that's actually a non-branded one as well. I got that off Amazon. But I've been sent this one from Eric Hill. Again, it's an infrared thermometer. I've not even opened the box yet. It's the ROOK 600 SP. So let's have a look at it for the first time. This comes in a nice little carry pouch. And also you do get a set of batteries with it, which will fit. So let's get them out. So you can get this working straight out of the box by all accounts. And I will leave a link in the description below for this, folks. So do check it out if you're in the market for one. So there's a lot of cheap ones out there, but this one looks to be quite a quality piece of kit. And as I say, it's got a brand name as well. So yeah, oh yeah, it's a nice looking thing as well. Right, okay, so they're all pretty similar, so that just opens up there. I think that other one of mine here takes a square battery, if I remember rightly. Yeah, which are quite hard to source, the PP9, so that's the older one. And this one takes AAAs, which is a lot more readily available, so we can put them basically in there like that. In the handle like that. Let's shut that up. So, oh, and the LED on this one actually lights up as well. This one here, it's just dark, you can't see. So if you're in the dark, you can't sort of see that sort of thing, you know. So that's a nice little feature to have that. There we go. So one says 11.4, one says 12. 11.7, 11.4, they're pretty much the same. So yeah, they're probably within tolerance. But I like the LCD display there, which lights up, which is a good feature on that. So yeah, it's a nice looking little thing. There it is, that's the Eric Hill Rook 600 SP, folks. It goes from minus 50 degrees centigrade up to 600 degrees centigrade, which is minus 58 Fahrenheit to 1112 Fahrenheit. So if you're looking for somewhere in that range, do check it out, have a look at it, because it's definitely comparable with that. If you see the little red dots on the wall there, look, I've actually merged the red dots. One's reading 11.1 and the other one's reading 11 there. So, but this has got the beauty of that LCD backlit display there, which is a great little thing as well. Happy days. So knowing that, let's see that element. What's that burning at? Yeah, that's burning at about 400 degrees C at the moment, folks. So that's definitely a lot better than what it was doing before. As I say, I should have taken the reading before, but that is totally glowing now, which it wasn't before. So changing the element was the way to go. And lesson learnt there, only use either kerosene in these things, which is house fuel, or heating oil here in the UK, or paraffin, which technically speaking is pretty much the same sort of thing, but with kerosene apparently there's no lubrication in it. For your diesel pump, which is my diesel heater back there, which has a little pump on it, I had to put some oil, as I said to you, because the pump apparently needs lubrication. But obviously in there it just impregnated the heating element and blocked it up, and hence it was redundant. I think the element cost about £22–23 off of Amazon or eBay. But as I say, this one has proven to be really efficient now, because that's really throwing out some heat now. So we can take this back in for some instant heat when we need it, because as I say, we're sort of cut the heating down in the house, the main boiler. That's on the, well, it don't go on at all apart from hot water. So looking outside again, it's just starting to settle there. So overnight it could be pretty bad. So as you can see, look, it's not too bad at the moment, but we are getting settlage there. Anyway, thanks very much. This is only a little fast blast video, this one, just to show you some of the maintenance tasks we have to put up with and deal with ourselves. But yeah, have a look at them. I'll leave the link in the description below for this Eric Hill Rook 600 SP laser thermometer. Thanks very much. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, bye for now.